Hi everyone, and welcome to Chickadee Cottage Creations. My name is Amanda and I have another kind of a unique video for you today. One of the membership groups that I'm in, we are doing a Deck the Chairs challenge today. I'll tell you a little bit about that more here. If you haven't yet and you happen to like this video, if you want to give me a subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. I appreciate each and every one of you who take the time to watch my videos. So the Country Sampler Farmhouse Style magazine made this chair vignette, and our group happened to absolutely love it and took it upon ourselves to kind of initiate a challenge where each one of us is going to come up with our interpretation of this chair. It doesn't have to be exact, it could be similar. It's just however we want to do a chair vignette. So this is the chair that I found on Facebook Marketplace. I paid only $5 for it, which I thought was a steal, and I absolutely loved everything about it. I didn't change anything on this chair, but I did do some projects for it. So project one, I start off with some skates. I have a collection of skates in my stash. Anytime I find them at garage sales, usually for $1 or $2, I pick them up just because I think they're really great to do things like this with. So I'm looking through a transfer book right here. This might be the Holiday Botanist, I think. I'm really bad with remembering the names, but I didn't find anything in this one that I particularly wanted to use, so I switched to Santa's Hollow, I believe, is another one from the 2025 IOD holiday release. If I can bring it into camera here. There we go. Yep. Santa's Hollow. So I immediately on the first page see a few items that I think I might want to use, so I go ahead and cut them out. One is that kind of an ivy and berry sprig there, and then the two designs there at the bottom. I absolutely loved how almost whimsical and light they are, and I also love the color. They kind of match the general color scheme that I'm wanting to go for this vignette. And I keep going through to see if there's anything else. I thought that might be one that I might want to use. So the nice thing about these transfers is that you can cut them into pieces and patch them together any way you wish, and I'm just cutting out things at this point that I might want to use. I don't use them all, but it's just that I can kind of play around with it and see if there's anything I might want to use. I really like these bells because they matched what I cut off on the very first page. So now that I have my pieces cut out, I knew I wanted to use those bells. As soon as I saw them, I just kind of knew. So that's the very first thing I put down. And with these, all you have to do is just kind of lay them down, and they do adhere a little bit. This one was a little different than doing it on a hard surface. I had to keep my hand on the inside to apply pressure from the other side. But overall, they actually took the rub-on transfer quite easily. I had not really any problems. There was one spot where the transfer separated a little bit and it had a little bit of a crack going down the transfer. I actually didn't mind that at all. I thought it really made it look like kind of a worn leather crack. So I thought it actually really enhanced the skates. But it's just a matter of continuously rubbing. You lift a little bit. If something doesn't come off, you just put it back down and rub a little bit more. These rub-on transfers are really very easy to use, and all the rub-on transfers I've used, and I think I've said this before, IOD are definitely my favorite. They're high quality. They really come off well. I love them. So then I kind of take it and I rub it with the sheet that it was on to burnish it into the skate. And then I go and I find this next piece, and here I've kind of already decided what I'm wanting to do. First I was going to do it on the front there, but you're not really going to see the front anyway. So I end up, this was a little too different from it, so I didn't like the look. So then I went back to this one because it really matched the style of the bells. And you'll see I'm cutting it in half here, and that's just because it has a bit of a weird layout around the skate. So I'm going to use both pieces still, but I'm just cutting it out to make it easier to apply them. And again, it's the same thing. You just place it down and rub, lift gently, see if there's any pieces that are not coming up. And if there are pieces that aren't coming up, you just lay it back down and rub a little bit more. But it came off quite easily. we go. I just burnish it again, and then I grab that other piece and try to line it up as best I can. I was just cleaning off a little piece there. And you can't even tell that these were cut at any point once I get them on there. And it's the same process again. You just rub until the transfer adheres, and then you'll burnish it at the end. And I don't show applying it to the second skate. It's basically the same thing. I think I just used the one piece there immediately to the left of the skate. This one on the right is going to be the one that's the primary center of attention. Even going over the seams on the skate went really well. And I just kind of folded that around and then burnished it again. And I'm not going to show you any of the projects until the final end, so I'm not going to show you the, there you can see I've attached it to the other one, but I'll show all of the projects, the final look at the very end of the video when I show you the vignette. So here I just found some ribbon, and I took some painter's tape and I just wrapped it around the end of the ribbon because it would have been quite a pain to try to lace it through that boot otherwise. And I just created a little, oh, I don't remember the name. What is the name of that you call that thing at the end of the lace? It actually has a name. I just don't remember what it is. But I used that to lace up both of the skates just so that I had something to hang them with. And really, skates without laces just look a little strange. And you'll see how easy it is there once I've added that painter's tape just to lace it through. It would have taken me quite a while otherwise. And that was it for the skates. Now we're on to project 2. This one I have some drop cloth from Home Depot. It's a canvas drop cloth. And I made this little template on some paper of kind of a banner. And I just used a pencil to sketch it out here on the drop cloth. And then once I have that sketched out, I use some scissors to cut it out. And once I have that cut out, I end up, initially I was just going to cut out one at a time, and I realized it would be a little smarter if I folded it over, and then I could cut 2 out at the same time, and I just used that original one as my template. And I hope I don't make you watch me cut them all out. I cut out a total of 5. The chair is not super large, so I don't actually need a ton of them, but I always like to do an odd number. Just think odd numbers in staging look really nice. Oh good, I didn't make you watch that last one. So there I have all 5 cut out, and I've got these, they're not really skewers, they're from Hobby Lobby, from their wood section. I guess they're similar to skewers, but I take out 2 of them. I'm just going to make little, I don't know, hanging pieces for those banners, and I kind of cut one, and then I just use that to cut the others. And somehow I got super lucky. It was exactly 3 out of each one. I don't know how I managed to do that. And I only need 5 of them. And then I'm going to take, I think it's Carriage House by Fusion. I love using the Fusion paints. It's some of my favorite. I just love that it has the built-in sealer, and I don't have to do a whole lot of it, and you just get excellent coverage with it. So I paint each one of these little sticks with that color. And I finished painting. I don't know why I painted the 6th one, because I only need 5 of them, but I went ahead and did it anyway, I guess. And then once I have those painted, I take my banners and I take a little strip of hot glue, and I'm just attaching those to those sticks. I probably could have done this after the next step. It might have made it a little easier on myself, but you know, I like to do things the hard way. Again, just a little strip of hot glue at the top. Do be careful here. The hot glue is hot, so I just apparently have no feeling in my fingers anymore. So here's where this step actually might have been a little easier if I had done before I put the sticks on, but this is last year's Christmas release, and this one I think is Yuletide. This was my absolute favorite of last year's transfers. I loved this one so much, but I'm kind of big on little forest critters, so I cut out 5 different designs that I like. 2 of them are forest critters, and then the others are just some of those smaller designs. And I'm going to transfer these onto the banners. The one thing about fabric to keep in mind, you do have to push quite a bit harder, and it really depends on the fabric too. Some fabric it can be a little bit easier, some it can be quite a bit harder. This wasn't as bad as a project I had done a couple weeks ago where I really had to rub to get it to stick. But this it wasn't too bad. Once I was able to get one section to lay down, then the rest came up pretty quickly. And then again, I just burnish it onto there, and I absolutely love those. They're so cute. So there I have all 5 of them done, and I took some, this is I think I got out of the ribbon section actually at Michael's, or not Michael's, Hobby Lobby. I don't have a Michael's in my town, unfortunately. And I just attach those little berry garlands to them. Apparently I didn't include that clip in here. That wasn't actually hard to do. I just bent them around it and put a little hot glue to hold them in place. And then here I'm putting a little bit of hot glue to attach those to that cord. And you'll see how I style that in the vignette later on. So for project 3, I have these 2 cones. I actually only end up using one of them. I didn't really quite have the space for both, but I ended up getting some of these wood biscuits from Home Depot. I love wandering around Home Depot. There's just some neat little stuff that they have in there, some things that you might be able to use in other ways. And I have actually on Pinterest, I've seen a few people do different crafts with these wood biscuits. I think they're great, actually. They're a lot of fun to use. And I ended up using primarily the smaller one, which is I think a number 10. And I apologize, my cat's in the background, demanding attention. But what I do is I take some hot glue and I put it on one end of it, and I'm just attaching these along the base of this cone. And you want to be really careful here. It is hot glue. I'm really good at not doing what I should be doing. I should have been wearing some finger protectors, but I was not. And here I've got the first row done, and then the second row you're just going to come in and overlap it just a little bit. What I ended up doing the further along in the cone I got is I would put hot glue on 4 at a time, and it actually went a little bit faster. But you just keep going up the tree until it's completely covered. And here I've got it all done, and I don't mind that you can see little pieces through. I think that actually makes it look really nice. Initially I was going to paint it Everett, but then I decided that I really liked kind of that natural wood look, especially with my vignette. Since I've got quite a bit of color in there, I wanted to have kind of a more natural looking element. So I have this star, actually it's 2 stars that I ended up gluing together because I still cannot find my rusted stars. And I did attach a bow to the top as well to cover that space, but I did not pay attention to my phone camera and the battery died when I was filming that. So this is project 4. This one is my absolute favorite of all of my projects. Here I'm using some milk paint. This is Flour Sack by Sweet Pickins. You mix equal parts of the powder to equal parts water, and then you let it sit for about 10 minutes just to kind of thicken up a little bit. It gets to be the texture of a milkshake, kind of like a melted milkshake, I guess. So this piece I had picked up from a thrift store in my area. I loved it. It looks like leather. It's not. It's metal. It just has kind of a leather seam look to it. But I loved the kind of just the design of it. The lid does come off, but I'm actually not particularly wanting the lid to come off for this use. So with milk paint, I dry in between, and this is after my third coat. And I don't know if you can see there, the crackles starting to form. I got such great crackle on this. I was so ridiculously happy. Milk paint is notoriously unpredictable. But I did spray this piece with shellac before I applied the milk paint. And you can see there, look at that crackle. I am so happy with that. I love anything with crackle, so this just made me really happy. I do want to seal this before I apply the transfer that I'm going to apply to it. I have in the past, if you don't apply a sealer, sometimes it can pull up the milk paint, especially since I was doing it on metal. I figured it would be best if I sealed it. So I went ahead and sealed it and waited for it to dry, and then this is the Partridge Lane, I think it is, rub-on transfer from IOD that came out this last year, and I pulled this set out of the very last page. It's perfect. It fits perfectly. Again, I'm just rubbing, pulling up a little bit to see if it starts to come. I wasn't having any luck on that side, so I switched over to this side. Apparently there was a tiny little bit of wet paint on this side, so you'll see that where it comes up here with the paper, but it still worked out just fine. And then I just go through and I'm continuously rubbing. Anytime something doesn't come up, I put it back down, rub a little bit more. And I absolutely love the way this looks. I get it off and I burnish the whole thing. And then I do want to add something to the top, and I'm looking through the book again, not quite sure what I want to add. And then I see on this page that wreath, and I think that's actually going to be perfect for the size of the item, and it just provides a nice little element here on the top. And again, it's just a matter of rubbing, and anytime something doesn't quite lift up, put it back down and keep rubbing, and it came off perfectly. So now I'm going to take some of the oil wax from Sweet Pickins. I think this is the dark oil wax. I love this stuff. I didn't quite use it how you normally should. You're actually supposed to let it sit on the project for I think 10 or 15 minutes. I did not do that. I ended up only letting it sit very briefly, and I used a paintbrush to apply it. You don't want to be dipping into this, so if you're going to use it, you can either pour it into a dish or just pour it directly on the project like I'm doing here. But you'll see here on the back I also got some chipping. I loved that. I left it on the back intentionally so that if I want to use this at other points in the year, I can just turn it around, and I've got that nice chippiness on the back. I used way too much oil wax right here, but that's good. So again, just putting it on there, spreading it around, and then using a cloth to wipe it back. Again, generally you'd let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes, but I did not do that this time around just for the sake of time. I love the way though that just kind of settles into the crackle, and it just, I love this project. It's my absolute favorite of the ones I made today. Off a little bit more, and then here I'm going to show you a little bit up close to see how it looks there in the crackle. I love it. I get a little giddy with crackle, and so this just made me ridiculously happy. So this is my final vignette. You'll see I styled the skates on a blanket ladder that I had there, and I also put the tree on top right behind him, and there's that bow attached. I actually made that bow. I'm getting better at making bows. It's not really my forte, but I'm trying to get better. So I tried to include different heights of elements. You'll see the banner there. I love how that turned out. It's a lot of kind of lighter greens and reds, but not super strong reds. And there's my favorite project. I really love the way this turned out. I styled it here in one next to one of my doors just because of the lighting, but this is actually I'm going to do a similar setup in my living room. I really like the way this turned out. So how do you think I did compared to the original? Do you think I did a decent interpretation? Is there anything different you might have done, or have you maybe tried styling your own vignette with a chair? I do appreciate you taking the time today to take some minutes out of your day and watch my video. Please take a look at the playlist of the other creators. I'll include that in the comments, and thanks for watching.